Okay. So first, China to develop 2 super heavy launchers for moon missions. What's going on here? Helsinki? This is in Helsinki? Or is it in China? I'm confused. China will work on development of 2 types of super heavy launch vehicles for future lunar projects, a senior official said Wednesday. Jiang Ji, a chief designer of the Long March 3A series of hypergolic launchers, told press in Beijing March 3rd that the China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology would continue development of both a heavy launch vehicle and a new generation crew launch vehicle over the next 5 years. Okay. Super heavy launcher is known as the Long March 9. While various figures have been published, it is expected to be around 93 meters long, feature a 10-meter diameter core, and have a mass at liftoff of 4.1 thousand metric tons. Capable of lifting 140 tons to low Earth orbit, or 50 tons to translunar injection. It'll also feature 4 5-meter diameter side boosters comparable to a Long March 5 first stage. Okay. What else is going on here? Required breakthroughs in large diameter structures, high thrust engines, China developing a dual nozzle, 500-ton thrust kerosene liquid oxygen engine, and a 220-ton thrust liquid oxygen stage combustion cycle engine for the second stage. This is no small feat here, to be honest. Expected to launch in 2030, bit down the road. The new generation crew launch vehicle is expected to be a concept unveiled by the China Manned Space Agency in recent years. So it's based on a previous design, and it's China, which is like the previous design is China's current largest vehicle, but I assume the new one will probably be bigger than that, I imagine. The successful development of these 2 types of rockets will greatly enhance the ability of the country's spacecraft to enter outer space. I mean, China are already doing bits in space, to be honest. I'm not too sure what that sentence is supposed to say. I guess it's that they can do it better, right? Fair enough. What else is going on? Bring some clarity to the status of the heavy launchers. Okay, so there's been a new launcher announced, and people were kind of confused. Okay, does this mean that you're not working on the launchers anymore, or is it still happening, or what's going on? But from my understanding, everything is still going ahead. Long March 9 is going ahead, and the new crew launcher is going ahead as well. Space-based solar power is super interesting. Hasn't been properly mastered yet, but yeah, I mean, if people can figure out how to use solar power in space properly, so much money is going to be saved on these missions. Using solar panels on Earth to generate electricity, let's say, you actually don't get as much solar power as you would at all if you were up in space on a satellite, let's say, with a solar panel. So yeah. So previous concept, low Earth orbit rendezvous and docking would take place before TLI. However, a new lunar landing architecture with the new crew launcher seems to have prevailed, with the Long March 9 providing support. Okay. Long March 9 is an interesting name, but that's just the name of the rocket. China last year tested a new generation crew spacecraft capable of transporting astronauts beyond low Earth orbit, demonstrating a commitment to developing crewed lunar capabilities. Chang's 5 lunar sample return also adopted a complex mission profile involving a lunar orbit rendezvous and docking, verifying some of the techniques and technologies needed to get astronauts home from the moon. International Lunar Research Station. So it'd be like a space station on the moon, and it's China and Russia on that project. I mean, I'm all for it. China seems to be really on the boat for Mars, like more so than any other country, I think. Um, Obviously you have the SLS things going on with NASA, ESA, or is ESA with SLS? Not 100% sure on that, but yeah, China is blowing me away with how much work they're putting into their moons. Pretty cool. What else do we have? The Blue Origin. Blue Origin delays first launch of New Glenn to late 2022. So New Glenn is the name of their rocket, I say. I'm actually learning this for the first time right now. But nice station, right? Looks pretty nice. Looks like a cool place to work. Senior VP Jarrett Jones said the schedule had to be pushed back following the Space Force decision to not select New Glenn as a national security launch provider. Dun dun dun. Sounds like it's something to do with, I don't know, admin issues probably. Not fun. So let's look. Blue Origin pushing back the first launch of its New Glenn rocket to late 2022, saying it re-baselined the development of the launch vehicle after losing a key Pentagon contract last year. So they lost a bit of moolah. Okay. They announced on the 25th of Feb that it has a new target in the fourth quarter of 2022 for the first launch of the rocket from Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. And originally it was supposed to launch in 2020, but then it got pushed back to 2021. And I'm sure with COVID and everything that's going on, things are just getting pushed back quite a bit. So it happened. It's fair enough. So Blue Origin Senior VP told Space News that the schedule had to be pushed back for technical and financial reasons following the Space Force decision in August to not select New Glenn for the NSSL. Okay. Big hit, had to consider economics. Blue Origin lost out to ULA and SpaceX, who were selected as national security space launch providers from 22 to 27. Now that's a bit of a bummer for them, right? Like that's 5 years where they're just like losing out contracts to ULA and SpaceX over and over. So I can see why they're angry. Not being selected cost Blue Origin billions of dollars. Blue Origin in October 2018 won a $500 million launch service agreement deal with the Air Force. Oh, but it was terminated in December 2020 after they received what, half the cost? Yeah, just over half. Wow, cost the company $3 billion in revenue. They're just getting blown everywhere. Maybe that's why Jeff had to step down from Amazon. He needs to work a bit more on Blue Origin, it looks like, to be honest. Okay. New Glenn be ready to compete again for NSSL Phase 3 when the new contract goes up for bidding in 2024. But bear in mind, you're bidding in 2024, but you're looking to win in 2027. So they're kind of pot out of luck for the next 6 years. They're gonna have to do a lot of work and really kind of show them in 2024 that they're really meaning business. Okay, so they've rebaselined. Okay. So what did they do? We looked at everything that was on the table, including funding and customers, and we put together a high probability schedule where we put all of our resources and spread out the necessary funding we needed. Basically, they're trying to find anything they can do possibly to keep the company running. Obviously, like with Jeff behind them, they're not going to have, too many issues with money. But it's not looking too hot at the moment. Not looking too hot. I worry about everything. Oh god. The company has completed a qualification version of the 7-meter payload fairing for the rocket along with a payload adapter, which will be tested later this year at NASA's Plume Brook Station in Ohio. Blue Origin has a first stage simulator in its Florida factory that some observers caught a glimpse of earlier this month. Within the next couple of weeks, people will start to see that roll around, Jones said. The company is also completing the new facilities at LC-36, a former Atlas launch pad that Blue Origin took over in 2015. Major construction at the pad is now wrapping up with system activation and checkout starting. The expectation is that next year it'll be commissioned. Yeah, seems like a lot of these companies are looking for new their own zones to like get stuff out, right? SpaceX has oil rigs that they're looking to refurbish, and now Blue Origin has a former Atlas launch pad. So yeah, they're doing bits. That pad cost the company 1 billion, part of a 2.5 billion investment by Blue Origin in facilities such as the New Glen factory just outside. Okay, so it was like an infrastructure spend, and that one pad cost them, yeah, about a fifth, right? Oh no, sorry, just under a half, a billion to 2.5 billion. Not looking too good. Jones said Blue Origin intends to deliver flight qualified BE4 engines to United Launch Alliance on time for ULA's planned maiden launch of its Vulcan rocket later this year. We're hot firing regularly, and every time you turn around, we're doing additional tests, he said. We have over 11,000 seconds of accumulated test time, and we feel confident. So yeah, they're backing themselves. They have a good company. They're doing good things, but they're just not getting the contracts they need to really keep powering ahead. Okay, so it's gonna fulfill its current commercial contracts and then pursue new civil space contracts. So who are they working with? Yeah, Eutelsat, MooSpace, OneWeb, Sky, Perfect, JSAT, and Telesat. They're really focusing on telecommunications, right? So they're gonna have to take a step back from their lunar missions and anything else, and just try and make sure that they're getting their contracts fulfilled. These kind of telecommunications ones, which would mainly be just sending satellites up to space and kind of having them orbit around. But yeah, that's about it. Until maybe 2027 if they win in 2024, right? So we'll see how that goes. Blue Origin also intends to position New Glenn to compete with SpaceX in the rideshare market for small satellite launches. You can tell that already by the companies they're working with. I don't know all of them. Sky, Perfect, JSAT. I thought that was Sky, and then I thought the other was Perfect JSAT, but it's actually one company. But yeah, they're all telecommunications companies, which would be in the range of small satellite launches, maybe some bigger ones too. But mainly focused on satellites orbiting Earth. That's basically all they're doing. So yeah, they are intending to position themselves to compete with SpaceX in this region. Especially if you consider SpaceX is going to be ploughing ahead with Mars, with the Moon. With that, they're still working on their Falcon launches. So yeah, it seems like a prime area for Blue Origin to just kind of maybe monopolize and just own that industry of sending small satellites into space. It's a really big opportunity for us at Jones. We're doing development work now to look at the different adapters we need to have for different satellite sizes and for reconfigurable satellites. Okay, what else? Engine shutdown led to failed Falcon 9 booster landing. What's going on here? So Falcon 9, in case you weren't aware, I think, I don't know what date it was. I think it was like early February. But it was just a test launch. They ran into some issues initially because I think there was some admin issues, or I think they didn't have like the proper like form signed or something for the FAA to allow them to launch. So it got pushed back a few days. They rolled out Falcon 10, and yeah, Falcon 9 launched a few days later. Went up fine, came down not so fine, and crash landed a little bit away from the launching pad. Big burst of flames. Well worth checking out if you haven't seen it. So what's going on? What's the title again? Engine shutdown led to failed Falcon 9 booster landing. Okay, so it says in the title. And this is it right here. Some immense amount of power coming from that engine. Okay, so F9 first stage failed to land after a launch last month because one of its engines shut down during flight after a hot gas breached a worn out cover. During a NASA press conference March 1st about the upcoming Crew 2 commercial crew flight, Benji Reed, who is the Senior Director of Human Spaceflight Programs at SpaceX, said that while the booster used on that February 15 launch was making its sixth flight, some components on it were life leaders that had flown more often than any other in the Falcon 9 fleet. So those parts had experience. Straight up. That included boots or covers around parts of the Merlin engines in the first stage. This was the highest count number of flights that this particular boot design had seen. However, one of those boots had a little bit of a hole that allowed hot gas to get into parts of the engine during flight. A little bit of the hot gas got to where it's not supposed to be, and it caused that engine to shut down. So while they had tried and tested pieces, maybe they were a little bit too tested. Maybe they were a little bit too tried. Reed didn't mention at what point in the launch the engine shut down, but he suggested that it took place during ascent. A great thing about Falcon 9 is that we have engine out capability, he said, meaning that one of the first stage's 9 engines can shut down without jeopardizing the mission. It's like a fail-safe mechanism, I think. Yeah, if one thing breaks, like, you still have most of it working. So you're not going to be completely shut down. So I think what happened probably was, let's say, I don't know how many engines are on it. Let's have a look at the picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, maybe there's like 8. We'll say there's 9, because Falcon 9, right? I don't know. Let's say there's 9. If one of them break, you still have another 8 working, and it might be a bit lopsided, but it's still going to remove, as opposed to it all shutting down and you just crashing, you know? So, where was I again? I think I was like here. Yeah. So, Reed didn't mention at what point in the launch the engine shut down, but he suggested it took place during ascent. Interesting. Didn't seem too dodgy on the way up. It only seemed like it really messed up on the way down. The great thing about F9 is that we have engine out capability. We said it already, my bad. Okay. The shutdown of the engine, though, kept the first stage from landing when the booster came to return home because of the problem with that particular engine. We didn't have enough thrust to get back to where we needed to be and didn't land where we wanted to be. Reed's comments offered the most detail to date on why the booster failed to land, breaking a streak of 24 consecutive landings dating back nearly a year. Wow. So yeah, it's the first big one in a while, like the first big crash. I thought SN8 also failed. Let's see. Falcon 9 not launched since the February 15 mission, though the company attempted to launch 28th of February of another set of Starlink satellites. The launch was scrubbed 84 seconds before the scheduled 8:37 PM Eastern liftoff, and the company has not provided more information about the cause of the scrub. During the webcast of that launch attempt, SpaceX hosts did not discuss the failed landing. However, they noted that there will be no video from the first stage on that launch, a break with the company's standard practices. SpaceX put everything out. They want like complete transparency on everything they do. They live stream all their tests. They're just really kind of in tune with making sure everyone knows what's going on. So the fact that they're kind of being a bit quiet about this, I don't know what it means. But I hope that doesn't happen in the future again. So it's good that they're doing this, making sure everyone knows what's going on, because it makes it so the world's not so small. So Reed said that the engine problem was a great lesson that we learned as the company works to better understand the lifetime of the F9 boosters and which components are most susceptible to wear and tear. The company is also working to upgrade control systems on the vehicle to even further detect and control what the vehicle needs to do in circumstances like that. Yeah, like Joe, look, it failed, it broke, it crashed, whatever. You do learn so much from these things, and they have the money to back that failure, you know? They don't mind. The knowledge they get is worth that money in gold, so they don't mind. Worth that money in gold, worth the weight in gold. I'm getting mixed up. Let's keep going. NASA has been following the investigation to understand if there are any problems that may pose safety issues to the F9 that will launch the Crew 2 mission, currently scheduled for no earlier than April 20th. We will follow along with SpaceX's investigation, said Steve, manager of NASA's Commercial Crew Program, including making sure they understand the problem before giving approval to the mission. Making sure it's all good, making sure everything's good, making sure everyone's happy. Makes sense. The big difference between the Starlink missions and the Crew 2 is the number of flights. We're about to embark on our first reuse here for a crewed vehicle, he said. The F9 booster that will launch Crew 2 previously launched the Crew 1 mission in November 2020, but with no flights in between. SpaceX Starlink flights are pretty far out there in terms of the number of reuses of the boosters, he noted. They're pumping those things up crazy amounts. I think they have like 60 satellites on each launch, and they're pumping them. There's so many up there right now. But yeah, this is the first time people will be reusing it. But look, it's tried and tested. Should be okay. More than should. It will be. I mean, it just will be okay. Like, fingers crossed. The astronauts who will fly on Crew 2 have also been keeping track of this and potentially other Falcon 9 issues. We've been briefed about every month on the updates of our spacecraft as well as the rocket, so we're very confident that they're going to figure out what's going wrong, said Shane, NASA astronaut who will command Crew 2. It's just been a few little things on a few of these rockets. He didn't elaborate on what those few things are. So he seems pretty confident. See what happens. Yeah, that should be pretty cool.